My name is Jacoba Niepoort. I'm from Copenhagen and I'm here painting in Aberdeen.
How are you finding Aberdeen so far?
It's nice. I haven't seen much other than this wall. And then of course all the other artists and organizers most of the nights, and all the neighbors around here who I'm seeing every day. But I like it. I really like the feel of the city. It reminds me a lot of Halifax, Nova Scotia, actually.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's very strange. It's so surreal to like be a place so far from it, but feel a little bit the same.
And what are you painting? The wall is behind. You can't really see it in shot at the moment. But what image are you creating today?
So there's 3 figures overlapping, and I like to leave it up to interpretation to really see what people get out of it. So that's it's with the topic of reconnect is what I'm working with.
So when you were thinking of the work, I presume you sketch it out, or do you see an image that inspires you, and then you sort of shape that up, and you think that'll look good on the wall? What's your process in terms of?
Yeah, so the process is I'm working up from photos that I'm taking. So I'm photo shooting. I have an idea ahead of time, and then I'm taking a lot of photos, working with the wall, with the theme, and creating something that usually has some kind of emotional feel behind it.
So that sort of tells me a little bit about it. So you've got the 3 figures that are overlapping. So when you're looking at that, when you're taking that picture and setting that up, what's going through your mind? What are you thinking of?
I'm thinking of post-corona, thinking of this, that we've been so far away from each other for so long, and the simplicity of bodies, of also of the nude body, and seeing the body in general. I think we've been covered in masks for so long also, but also to actually be able to touch and just blend together. And for me, that is a feeling of reconnecting, also in general connection.
There's a bit of freedom there, isn't it? It's sort of like a release. It sounds like it's a bit of a release.
You could say that
you're putting on the wall.
Yeah.
So it's a big wall, it's a huge wall. How has it been to paint? Because you're in a bit of a sort of like a car park setting here.
Yeah.
You've got a reflecting building in the back. How's that been for you?
Yeah, it's been a new challenge that I've never experienced before. Probably one of the biggest ones, because there's reflections on the wall like 8 or 9 hours a day. So and when that happens, it's a turquoise light that makes squares on the wall, and it's impossible to see what's going on. So it's a long process of of thinking, maybe you know what you're doing, and then having to honestly wait 8 hours to figure out if it's working or not. So I've been getting up really early, working before the sun hits around 12:30.
I suppose that's a particular problem, because you're not working with like bold colours, are you? You're working with shades, and the wall. I'm just sneaking a peek out the corner of my eye now, but it is, it's blending into the wall. It's part of the built environment, really.
Yeah. Trying to integrate the colors and the environment around. So it's super subtle in that way, and also in that sense you have to be able to see the wall when you're working. But I really like that. I think some murals do really well to like really stand out and have a contrast. Personally, I like to work with this, like trying to really blend it into the surroundings. And you have so much brown in Aberdeen, and I like this granite brown that you have all over, and my idea was to kind of bring that also. When the sun hits that granite, you get all these different shades and lights coming out. So just working with like a breathing wall.
And tell me about your practice. How did you get to where you are now? How has that developed over the years?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've painted murals a long time, and I've been working full-time with art the past 5-6 years, but it's always been a practice on the side of everything else I've been doing. My background is actually in international development, with a focus on other artists who work with political and social art projects in the public space, and that was my way to like nerd and try to make sense of like, why is it important to work outside? What is the public space like? What value does art have to everyday people? I worked with that for a little bit. I studied that, and I realized like, no, I don't have so much time in my life to like do everything, and what's most important is really for me to be able to create in the process. So that was a decision like 5-6 years ago, to go only with that.
So you mentioned there, so you're actually thinking about the importance of art in public space. What is important about it to you when you look back at that and you think about art for yourself? What's the important?
It's a tough question to answer. I think there's so many ways to. There's so many important things. There's the fact that this is like I also work with galleries and indoor spaces, and there's such a difference as that this is for everyone who uses the space outside. This is our space. This is the public space. This is something to consider, like what we can add to it or not add to it, or who owns it and who has the money to put something up. Like we've seen the issues of like Coca-Cola owning spaces and painting murals and that kind of stuff. And I think there's so much value in creating little like pockets of something that, I don't know, adds to the everyday person in this specific space, even if it's just a neighbor right around the corner. And I think especially when we're in a city setting, there's a tendency to just walk very fast through a lot of spaces and not feel like such a strong emotional connection with it. And I like to, in the best case scenario, to have these moments where you can stop up and be surprised. I think that does a lot. And of course there's a ton of art that does different things, and they're very, like, I think it's a great place to have political interactions as well. It's not so much what I work with, but more on a subtle level, I think you could say.
And it's sort of, I suppose it creates a discourse, doesn't it? So you're creating art into a city like Aberdeen, for example. You've noticed yourself the amount of people that are coming up and they're interested and they're wanting to know, right? And for me that's super important too, those connections with the people that you meet when you're standing here. I mean, in the end it's all about connections with people. No, that's what we're all about, but this is one process to interact with that. Thank you.
You're so welcome.